Hey guys, this is Alex. Today I am in my garage and I am going to be doing some maintenance on my RDX. So what I'm doing today is actually pretty standard maintenance that's done on Hondas and Acuras. It is a B17. That's the maintenance minder code that came up on my dash. The Acura and Honda system has letters followed by a series of numbers to kind of denote what type of service you need to do to your car. A is typically just an oil change, and then B actually has quite a few other inspection components along with it, including a brake inspection. So what you're supposed to do is pull apart brake pads, calipers, clean, lubricate, inspect the front and rear brakes overall. You start inspecting suspension components and looking for anything that's worn, torn, loose, leaking, damaged, etc. You replace wiper inserts, you balance the tires, you do just an overall check of the vehicle to kind of look over the health of it. The number one in the maintenance minder system is a tire rotation. That shows up quite a bit on Hondas and Acuras. You have to do that every, I believe it's every 3,000 to 5,000 miles that number one will actually show up. And then number 7 is actually going to be a brake fluid flush. So brake fluid flushes are kind of difficult to do as one person, but I do have the brake fluid vacuum tool using my compressor to suck the fluid out of the lines while adding new fluid in to flush the line. So a lot of these maintenances I used to do as an Acura technician over 10 years ago. For a short time, I used to work on these cars every day. So what I'm going to do is go through the process that I learned working at a dealership. Hopefully this will give you some tips or tricks on how to perform the maintenance yourself at home. So I freaking love this car, honestly. I bought it a couple years ago after I sold my Civic Si. I had a 2008 Civic Si that was in Fuji Blue. I bought this car a couple years ago because my wife and I wanted to upgrade to some sort of SUV, so we had some more space. This thing has kind of still fulfilled that need for some sort of performance car while I wait for my Silvia to get here since it's still in Japan. It's been a great vehicle. It is, you know, a turbocharged K-Series Honda. It drives like a car, doesn't drive like an SUV. The finishes are really nice. The overall color of the car is great. I'm a sucker for these blue colors apparently. And this is the A-Spec trim, so it has some of the nicer materials. It has leather seats, and then it has leather wrapped interior as well. A lot of people complain about this infotainment system and the actual like controls for switching out of park and drive and whatnot, but honestly after owning the vehicle now for a couple years, I got used to it rather quickly and it really has never bothered me. As you can see, I'm in my tiny 1.5 car garage. I think I'm gonna have to actually back this thing up because there's not enough room in front here for me to get like my jack and everything and get underneath. This is one of the problems with my garage. I have literally no space in here. I'm usually putting things and mounting things on walls just to get them off the floor and get more space. Hopefully I will have a different garage by the time my Silvia arrives from Japan because I have nowhere to put it right now. But for now it works and I can work on a single car in here just fine, so long as it's not like a giant pickup truck or something that barely probably even fits in the door. So here you can see the B17 maintenance minder message that shows up on the dash. And then if you dismiss it, you can probably see oil life, which is minus 23 miles. So I really let it go. Alright, this is why I want to lift. That is why I want to lift. It's super humid today too, so it's like jacking up your car is like a aerobic exercise at this point when it's super hot out like this. But we're there, so I'm gonna start draining the oil. So I don't know if you guys are anything like me, but I absolutely hate getting oil all over my freaking garage floor because it's such a pain to clean up. And usually I can save a piece of cardboard for a couple oil changes before it's soaked enough to need to get rid of. So we're gonna get in there, and I need a 17 because Honda drain plugs are a 17 millimeter. Throw that down there and I'll take you with me. Oh God. Old age. Oh, that's right, I forgot. New cars have panels covering the oil drain plug. Not a big deal, looks like it's just a flathead. All right, so this is the panel underneath the car that you have to remove to get to the oil pan. This one here is for the trans fluid. This one over here is for the oil. So we're gonna remove this one. Haven't done too much maintenance on this car because it hasn't needed it. It's been so new. I think I did one oil change. Okay, and here she comes. There we go. While this is finishing, I'm going to pull out the filter. And I got another pan nearby. Okay, there it is. All right, now that I got the engine oil draining, I'm going to pop off the wheels and then start working on checking out the brakes. Okay, one thing that I did right away after getting off the wheels was I put them in their new locations. So we have the front tire was moved to the rear tire was moved to the front per a tire rotation. And let's do a little, I'll use my tire gauge, depth gauge, to see what we're at right now. Should be pretty good because it's still a very new tire. So let's go, usually in the middle, you want to avoid any sort of the bumps that are in the tire. Here's one right here. So you just go right in the middle. And there is millimeters and 30 seconds on this tool, which I don't know if you can read right now. So we're at about 30 seconds. 30 seconds is where we're at. On the rear tire going in the front, and the front tire going in the rear is right below 30 seconds. One thing I didn't show was when, typically with an inspection, what we did at the dealership is we would shake down a tire. We would grab the tire and then actually like shake down back and forth, up and down, kind of like put some load on it from the bottom, trying to shake the suspension up to try and see if there's any loose suspension bushings, ball joints, or anything like that. I will do it to this side right now, but you can grab the tire and just move it back and forth. Obviously this thing has 16,000 miles on it. It is extremely tight. Everything is super tight on this car because it's all brand new. So nothing to be expected there, but good to do if your car is older and has a lot of miles, just to see if you hear any weird bumps or little pops or anything. Might be worth investigating further if there is anything going on like that. Okay, so brake inspection. Typically what we would do a visual inspection, of course. Look for anything that might be like on the rotor. If there's damage on the rotor, if there's grooving on the rotor, it looks like all rusted, warped, whatever. Obviously you want to start looking at potential new rotors or maybe having them ground down. I don't know if you can grind down these rotors because these are like some special rotors that came out on this vehicle. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that you can't. I think you have to replace these. From there, you know, if everything looks good visually, then you move on to actually pulling off the caliper and visually inspecting the pads, and that's what I'm going to do next. Couple of 12 millimeter, 14 millimeter on the front, and then this should just come off like so. Since it's hanging by the brake cable, you want to kind of prop it up somewhere. And you have the caliper bracket right here. And here are the pads. So we can take out each pad. Looks like it has these clamps on, which I've never seen before on the other models I used to work on. No big deal. Pulls out from the top. So we'll pull out a pad. And visual inspection, everything looks pretty good. Usually what you're looking for when you're doing a brake inspection, obviously any signs of wear on the pad that might warrant a replacement. Usually what we would do at the dealership is we'd look at these tabs of the brake pads, and if there was surface rust building up, which there is a little bit, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it on camera, there's a little bit right there, we would usually take an actual die grinder with a pad and then just grind down these edges and take away any surface rust. And usually that would actually help the pad move a little more freely in the caliper bracket so that it could do its job. A lot of pads that haven't been serviced in a while, you'll see like surface rust building up in between there because it's just a contact point, and eventually it just kind of gets corroded, and sometimes the actual pad will get stuck in the brake. So usually doing something like that will help. This one looks a little more worn, so I think I'm actually going to grind down. Going to hit these really quick. And then what we do is take out the caliper slides. Inside the bracket there's these slides, and it's held in by this rubber boot. You can kind of just grab the boot, pull it up, it'll come out like so. Boop. And it's usually covered in some sort of lubricant, some sort of grease to keep it moving. So what I'm going to do is just take this and I'm going to clean it off with a rag or paper towel, whatever you got. And then this is what we used at the dealership. It's just a silicone lubricating compound. I'm pretty sure I got this from the dealership from how many years ago? 12, 13 years ago that I worked there. I'm still using the same bottle. I'd usually just paint it on like a paintbrush, grab some lubricant, just lube them up. Doesn't really matter how much you put on there. It doesn't have to be overwhelming, just enough to keep the pin moving, but keep it lubed up. You can slide it back in, and usually what I do is grab the rubber boot on top, because it has a little bit of a lip that grabs on there and stays on there. So you push it in, grab the boot, and you kind of can squeeze out any extra silicone in there that's trying to take up space. There we go, it's in there. So since these are super new pads, I'm not going to hit them a lot because I don't want to take away any of the paint, too much of the paint, I should say. That's already on there, protecting the pad. But there's a little bit of rust on this one, so I'm going to grind it down. There we go, that's one. So super light grind on these. Oops. Alright, they're still moving freely within the bracket, so good to go. Also, you should probably wear a mask when you grind. I don't have one at the moment. I meant to buy some, but I don't have any. But definitely want to keep brake dust and shit out of your mouth, especially when you have a more rusty car. Thankfully, there's not a lot of stuff coming off of this one since it's so brand new. Okay, I got the pins back in. Okay, and the last thing I'm gonna do, oh wait, I'll put this back on. Huh, maybe I'm gonna have to compress the piston. So I'm just gonna grab a channel locks here. See if I can compress the piston. Yeah. And that is exactly what you don't want to do. Fuck. And I lost my springs. Great, wonderful, super cool. Please don't pop out on me. Way better. Okay. Okay, so the last thing I'm gonna do is do a little more rust clearing. Usually the surface that the wheel is mating to right here on the rotor. In our climate, this can get a little rusty. Surface rust can build up. You can see there's a little bit happening right here, and a lot is happening on the inner ring. Usually just take the same pad. You know, we would just try to grind away any sort of surface rust that's kind of starting to build up to make sure that surface is clean. Every time a car came in the dealership, we would clean those off just to make sure, and we would also check the inside of the wheel too to make sure there's no surface rust there, and just kind of hit it with one of these pads, which I will link in the description. These things are great just for blasting off a small bit of material on top of any metal surface. And that's pretty much it with the brake service, and that's all you really need to do. So what I'm going to do next is go around and hit all the rest of the wheels, and then I'll start working on the brake fluid flush. So I just realized that Acura has changed the design on their rear brakes. I learn something new every day. They used to be, depending upon the car, it used to be either like a 12 or a 10 millimeter bolt that held in the caliper bolts. But now they have switched out to the hex version. So they have these little covers on the actual area where the bolt goes in, and it looks like it's under a protective cover, plastic cover. So what you gotta do is you gotta pull these out. Here, I'll try the first one up here. And they just pop out with your thumb. Easy little thing to get out. And then inside is actually a hex bit, or a hex bolt. I looked up what it is, and I'm gonna need a 7 millimeter hex to be able to get these out. So I just ordered something on Amazon, which is going to be here today because I do not have a running vehicle to go to the store to get the tools. So I'm gonna have to get it delivered. So it's actually gonna come tonight, which is awesome, so I can finish this up. The one thing you do have to do with the brakes, though, in the rear is also take off the brake line from the actual bracket over here that's holding it in, which is a 12. So you take that off so that when you actually take this caliper off, you can move it out of the way and actually service the brakes. I'm going to finish up the oil change first because I don't know when my tool is actually coming. It said between 5 and 10 p.m. So I may have to get the wheels back on to pull my car in tonight and work on this tomorrow. But What I'm gonna do is finish the oil change first. What we usually did at the dealership every time was replace this crush washer. And you can find these on Amazon. I will link in the description to get a little baggie of crush washers to do your oil changes. This is an aluminum pan, so you have to be careful about how much you tighten these bolts to the pans, because we saw a lot of vehicles come in that would have threads on the inside of the oil pan that were stripped out. So what we did for every single car that we worked on is we torqued the drain plug every single time. And I'm glad I learned that habit, because, you know, it wasn't something that I started doing when I started working on cars. And torquing things is the appropriate way to work on vehicles, in my opinion. Torquing to manufacturer specifications. Manufacturer specification. I can't talk, it's hot out. So what we do is we would torque these to 32 foot-pounds. And what I'm using is a mobile oil filter. I actually just went down a oil filter rabbit hole trying to find what the best oil filters were out there. Mobile was up there on the top of the list. There were some other ones that were supposedly better that I wasn't even able to find in stock, so I decided just to go with Mobile, since I always use Mobile oil anyways. Let me know what you guys use. I used to only use Honda filters on my Hondas, since that was just what we did at the dealership. So another habit I built. But I'm curious to see what everyone runs on their Hondas and what they trust. So always lube up the outer ring of the oil filter just to make sure it seals. Just a little bit of dirty oil, doesn't matter, whatever. Little oil just to seal it. And then you can just put it on hand tight. Oh god. Oh, shit. So thin layer of oil on the filter itself, on the rubber, and hand tight. And my favorite part is sliding out your dirty oil and hoping that it doesn't spill all over your garage. I have 100% done that, especially all over my parents' garage. My dad was not happy. 32 foot-pounds. We are very close to the ground here. There we are. Just enough to crush the crush washer and seal it up. Oil capacity is a funny thing. If you Google search your car and look for the oil capacity on your vehicle, chances are you're going to find a bunch of different numbers. Some are with the filter, without the filter. One website says one thing, one website says another. I know this motor, in the old RDX, we would always do full synthetic 5 quarts at the dealership. That was what we were built for and what we put in the vehicle. If you look online, I think mine's 2019, it said it was like 5.2 with the filter. And then you look at some other websites and it's telling me 5 quarts. Just confirming the same thing I knew. It's K-Series, Turbo K, it takes 5 quarts. That's what we're gonna put in. And then you could just check the dipstick later to see what the oil level is. In we go. So next I'm going to finish up the front brake surface so I can get that out of the way, and then I'll start diving into the brake fluid flush. Okay, so brake fluid flush. What you gotta do is every 2 to 3 years you have to flush out your fluid, because brake fluid is hygroscopic, yeah. And what it does is it takes on water over time, and water is not good for our hydraulic systems. So you want to flush that fluid out and get new fluid in there to make sure everything is functioning correctly. You're not getting any water in your brake lines. There's no rust developing in any of the brake system. So pretty simple process. I'm going to use this, which I believe I got from Harbor Freight years ago, and it's the pneumatic brake fluid bleeder. You pretty much just hook up a compressor line to the tool, and it will vacuum suck the brake fluid out at each point. So what you want to do is you start with the reservoir, take off the cap, and use the vacuum to suck all the fluid out, the old fluid out, and then you fill it up with new fluid. And then what I'm going to do is start at the rear of the vehicle. You want to start at the farthest point away from the reservoir. So that's going to be the right rear, and then I'll move to the left rear, passenger side front, driver side front. And you just go through and you open up the bleeder line, let some fresh fluid through, and once you see some clear new fluid coming through, you close the line, and you keep that thing filled up to make sure it doesn't start sucking air through. So I'm going to start that process, and we'll go from there. So I'm going to suck up the old fluid. So there's some like chunks in my reservoir. Ugh, what is that? I want no chunks in my reservoir. Anyways, so I sucked out most of it already. And the idea is you fill it back up once you suck everything out as best you can. And then from there you go to the rear of the car. So I'm gonna try to get out whatever those little chunks are in there. I may have to take this barb off, or this hose off to get on there. So I was able to take the barb off, or take off the nozzle, so that you can just get the little barb in there and suck everything up. I was able to get everything out. It's looking minty fresh. I'm gonna throw some new fluid in and then move on to the next thing. Okay, so I'm in the right rear of the car, and this is pretty much the process. Right here on the caliper is a tiny little bleeder valve. Just pop off this little rubber thing, 10 mil. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna loosen it with this on. I'm gonna suck fluid into the reservoir here, and you only need to leave it open for like 10, 15 seconds. I'm especially concerned about the amount of brake fluid I have because I didn't buy another bottle. And I only had like a third of a bottle left, and hopefully it's gonna be enough so that I can keep some in the reservoir and then drive to the auto store. It's locked in, and then we're gonna open up the valve. I don't know if you can see, but there's fluid coming through. It'll kind of be bubbly like that. It's not going to be like a solid stream. So it's been about 10-15 seconds. You close it up. And that's pretty much it. You just need to do that for every wheel, starting in the rear. So right rear, left rear, passenger side, driver's side, and then make sure you're topped off completely. Okay, I just finished up the fluid flush. I thankfully still have fluid in my reservoir, so I don't have to worry about not driving the car until I get more fluid. I can drive to the store and pick some up. I am ready to go to put the car back together. I still don't have my hex set from Amazon, so I might just end up putting this back together, maybe doing a brake service later. This car only has like 16,000 miles on it, so it's not like these brakes are gonna like rust up on me in the next like couple thousand miles. There was still plenty of lube on the other pins that I pulled apart earlier, so I think I might just wait to get my set and then either do it this weekend or another time this year. I'm gonna put the wheels back on, I think, and button this up. Well, I might have it today. I mean, I should have it today. But then again, I've had this before where it's like by 10 p.m. and then it says, your order has been delayed, and then never shows up. So, I don't know, man. I think I'm just gonna put the wheels on, deal with it another day. You know, I got things I wanna do, people I wanna see, a life I wanna live. I'm just kidding. I'm 38 and I don't leave the house anymore. But seriously, I just don't think it's worth it with a car with such low mileage, and like the pins were fine on the front. So I'm just gonna put the wheels on and clean them up another day. So now I'm gonna go around and torque each wheel to 85 foot-pounds. That was something we did in the dealership. Every single time we took off wheels, we always torqued them again. Because once you build that habit of actually doing that, you don't have the problem of running into like a loose lug nut or something that a customer has driven, you know, a mile down the road and all of a sudden their wheel falls off. That has happened. So once you get in the habit of actually torquing lugs and you do it by repetition, it's just like second nature. And honestly, it's that peace of mind, knowing that all your lugs are on tight and where they're supposed to be. They're not over tight and they're not too loose. Just good habit to get into. And FYI, I did have to step on my brake in order to get that pedal pressure again. I'm gonna get some more fluid, probably tonight, run over to AutoZone or something. Yeah, it's only 5 o'clock, so I think I got time. Get over there, get that fluid. But yeah, let me close this hood. And let's do a little brake test, shall we? Brakes are working. Okay, so the absolute last thing I want to show you guys is how to reset your maintenance minder system. So you just power on your car. And you don't have to start it like I did. And when you see the service, what you want to do is go, you can do it I think from the top, right here. Yeah, or is it maybe at the, it's actually at this window, the maintenance window. Hold it down here. There it is. So yeah, you go to the maintenance window and then you hold down this button for 10 seconds, and then this menu comes up and you can do all the items or just one in particular. So since we did the full service, the B17, we're just gonna do this, all do items. And it's been reset. And there's a little notification on the infotainment too saying it was reset. So we're good. And that's it for my B17 maintenance adventure. It's a completely different day because my camera died. Let me know if you guys want to see more of my RDX or have any questions about Honda and Acura service. I will do the best I can to answer those questions. And thank you for watching.